And I think what we heard from Sorare, I think it was with Dan when he was on the Sorare data show with Laird and Maxime. They said that they are hoping to get the common modes out like a week ahead of the league launching, kind of thing, and then maybe be revisiting that. So, with them, at point of recording for us, we're talking about 11, 12 days are away now. So the common modes really shouldn't be that far away now from being rolled out or given to us. This is a Monday, by the way, that we're taking this on. So maybe even by the time this has been edited and pushed out, the draft modes are open and we'll be back at it again. But definitely when it comes to Champion Europe, England it feels like what is the door opener to the season, of the European season, is always like when the English Premier League kicks off, that first match of the day that you watch on Saturday night and you see who all the teams are, all the new signings on action, who scored the worldies. And I think one of the biggest transfer kind of, I don't think saga is probably the word, but kind of, let's say, evolution throughout this window is probably, that I've enjoyed watching certainly, has probably been Liverpool. Been very proactive and really making a lot of forward-thinking moves to evolve their midfield. They've done a lot of work in the forward line over the last probably 18 months prior to this window with, likes of Diaz and Nunes and a few others coming in. Szoboszlai, McAllister. It feels like Romeo Lavia is on the cusp of joining as well, because Henderson and Fabinho have taken the big payoffs to go to Saudi Arabia. So Liverpool are getting this FFP blank checkbook to go and get some really good talent to come in and fill in their places. So, I'll just throw to either one and use it or pick it up. But when it comes to Liverpool and the reconstruction they've been doing, particularly in midfield, could the Liverpool midfield spot become one of the boss positions in the Premier League this year on Sorare?
I think it's worth looking at it because, like you said, it was never a nice way to build your stack to think about a Liverpool midfielder. So I think now that with Szoboszlai, and to be fair, I was just looking at them right now as well. Curtis Jones is the one that had the right scores for Liverpool the whole season last year. So they're probably one that now we can look at. I think the addition of Alexis McAllister is going to be such a welcome rival for Liverpool, because it's just basically going to do the hard work for everybody else to be able to play with the ball. So I'm looking forward to that Liverpool. It's weird because Klopp has been here for that long, right? But it kind of looked like he's getting a second start at trying to build a dynasty now that they've sort of like phased away the Firmino and Sadio Mane and all that.
Yeah, I do agree. I think it's going to be a little bit difficult, in my opinion, because as you said, I think Liverpool is now completely stacked in midfield because they still have Thiago Alcantara. And if you have then Curtis Jones, you have McAllister, you have Thiago Alcantara, who am I saying? Szoboszlai, and also Trent, because apparently Klopp wants to play Trent in midfield. So it's going to be a dilemma who to play each weekend. Of course, they're going to have they play European football, right? They play Conference or Europa League, right? Which of those two did they? Yeah, so they're going to have some rotations. Europa, so they're going to have some rotations. How much is Trent, by the way, in Rare going?
1.
Crazy.
I'm back up.
Yeah.
1 ETH. What I was just thinking, right, is how long would it take for Trent to be repositioned to be a midfielder? Because as you might remember, once upon a time, Kimmich was a right back that became a midfielder, and he used to be categorised by many as a defender, obviously before Sorare existed. So how long would it take, I wonder, for Trent to be refashioned as a midfielder if that did happen? Just as something that came to me, I'm not sure.
It's very strange how those positions actually change, because Alaba used to be his first position was a 6, as said DM, and then he moved back to left back under Van Gaal. I think Van Gaal left him play on left back, and then now from left back he moved to center back. So people change. It's crazy. But I think his preferred role, and I think in the Austrian national team, he always played as a central midfielder. It's crazy. This guy played everything.
Yeah, he does pretty well in midfield, doesn't he?
He is okay.
Yeah, right.
I'm actually. I think he's completely underrated. Nobody's talking about him anymore, but I think He's still one of the
Yeah.
best and playing for Real Madrid. Crazy guy. How old is he, by
I
the
think
way?
Liverpool could probably use a guy like David Alaba, couldn't they, in midfield, in that centre defensive midfielder role.
100%.
We're hearing Romeo Lavia could come in, but Lavia is a bit more box-to-boxy rather than that, guard the castle kind of guy, that will sit in front of the defence and keep it all tidy and ticking over. I've not seen enough of the boy Bajcetic, but I think he's very well rated at the club. Is he that kind of defensive guy for you? Have you seen much of him, or do you have an opinion on him at all? Or Harvey Elliott? I know Harvey Elliott's a bit more creative, obviously, but either of them we've not really touched on.
I think they're just too young, both of them, at the moment for a club for like Liverpool. I think both of them need a loan into championship or whatever, so they can actually develop as a players. Because it is correct that it does help you train with the best of the best, because then you play against it. But you need this environment as for starting games, and you can't learn them if you're just always sitting on the bench. And how it does actually feel if like 20,000 people actually boo you or scream at you that you suck, by the way, and you actually need this contenance to be held at yours, and this you can't train in training. That's the problem. So that's why you have to go on alone and actually go and get some game time, in my opinion. I'm actually asking you two guys, who do we think is gonna start in Liverpool? What's the A team? What's gonna be Liverpool's A team?
I think the back four kind of picks itself, doesn't it? I think Trent, although play midfield, will populate right back, kind of off the ball, It's probably the way he gets into the team still. So it's still going to be, for me, Trent, Van Dijk, Konate, Robertson. But I do feel that Robertson, more than ever, will probably get a little bit rotated, just with... I think he did have an injury or two last season. Tsimikas has always been pretty handy. Klopp's not shy to play Tsimikas either. But I do think that'll be the team that starts every big match in the league until the league is... The thing with Klopp and the thing with Liverpool is it's always start the best team. He doesn't really mess about. If they're going for the league, they're going to win every game. He's going to play the best team every game to start with. That's the way he goes in every competition. So I think that back four, including Alisson and goals, I think that kind of maintains. But it's the midfield I find quite tricky. With the defence, you guys get anything that would,
No.
do you have a case for anyone else coming into that? A right back, maybe even as well. Could they sign a right back and move Trent?
Nah, I think you're right. I think he's going to start as a right back and then just transition into midfield. I think a little bit like Man City was playing at the end of the day. That John Stones actually started as a centre back, but then actually was a 6 at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think both ends are pretty easy to pick. It's the midfield that's going to be weird, because even up front, you got to think that Salah is starting, and then it's probably Nunez, and the rest they can rotate between Gakpo, Jota, and Diaz. But in the middle of the park, it feels like it's almost too many, and there's not one that's really the enforcer that Fabinho was at the peak of his career. So it's all different style of midfielder, and you almost have to have them all at once to be able to have your complete midfielder. So I don't know how he's going to make that work, to be honest.
I think Kevin McAllister is going to start most of the game, to be honest. And I also believe that Szoboszlai is going to start most of the game as more the attacking midfielder, Szoboszlai. And maybe he can also play on the wing. He could actually even play on the wing, and the Mo Salah could become the number 9, to be honest. Mo Salah back in number 9 position, Dominic Szoboszlai on the right wing. And he did play that at Leipzig sometimes, to be honest. And then you have, like, in attacking, they are completely overstacked, as you said. Diogo Jota, Gakpo, Luis Diaz. Who the hell are you starting? All of them are top players, you know what I mean? And somebody is gonna get a very angry of having less minutes. Maybe Gakpo can probably, I don't know. I haven't watched a lot of Eindhoven, to be honest. But I assume Gakpo could play as a number 9 as well, probably in extreme cases. And but I think McAllister, in my opinion, is the only one set. I also think Thiago Alcantara is set, but Thiago Alcantara is also made out of glass, so he will not make all of the games in this season. He won't make that. But I think when he's fit and in the important games, I feel Thiago's gonna start and have the A team spot in a way, and then you need the one destroyer. And I'm not too sure if Lavia is this one destroyer, to be honest.
Yeah, I kind of go along with that as well. I think as far as the forwards go in particular, I think this is very exciting ahead of the new season. I think Salah's definitely, first name on the team sheet there. Diego Jota, obviously, we've seen him play in all three front positions for Liverpool and be very, very effective in spells. So you get ultimate kind of versatility from him. And Gakpo does have that versatility of playing like central and wide as well. So I do think when you look at that behind the main three, I think of Salah, Nunez and Diaz. Maybe Gakpo gets in over Diaz, I don't know, but I think Diaz is probably preferred by the manager, in my opinion. And then with Ben Doak, formerly of Celtic, I think he'll get a little card this year on Sorare. I'll be looking forward to seeing that coming out. And I think he'll get some minutes, and he's been really impressive. And I think like this Liverpool team up front looks set to score a hatful of goals, even from the bench as well. Like any of these guys when they come on, 5 subs, guys, it's going to be forgotten about in this off season probably quite quickly. But it's all these guys are going to play significant minutes in most matches. Whether it's 30 minutes or 25 or 20. Well, that's significant for some of these guys, depending on the match state at the time they come on. It's just as good as starting for some guys, So it's the midfield is really potentially going to be a huge upgrade on what we've seen out of Liverpool recently. I agree. I think McAllister has to come into this team as a World Cup winner, as a massive overachiever at Brentford, Brighton, I beg your pardon, I always do that. I think he has to be coming in as a nailed starter to the team. He's Premier League proven in that respect. But I find it hard to imagine that Thiago Alcantara starts ahead of Szoboszlai, given the kind of stature, the promise, his kind of, and again, the role he would give the centre of midfield in here.
To be honest, Quinny, I agree with you. And I think Klopp won't have this much of a problem because he will start Thiago when he's kind of fit, and the other games where he's not fit, which going to be loads of games, Szoboszlai will play for Thiago. But I think Thiago is a very, very, very special player. And I think Szoboszlai could become like Thiago, but he's certainly not at the level of Thiago yet, of course. And so in my opinion, and I stand by it, I think in the important games, and if he's fit, if he's like fully fit, he's going to play Thiago. It's a little bit like in the last years of Andrea Pirlo at Juventus, when he was fit, whatever, he could actually play, but he didn't play all the games. When it was important and he was fit, he played. If not, somebody else started, basically. And I feel it's the same a little bit with Thiago. Not that he's as old as Andrea at that time, but he's just had so many injury problems over his whole career. Like half of his time at Bayern Munich he was injured, half of the time at Barcelona he was injured, half of the time at Liverpool he seemed to be injured. So it's just a pattern of his career. But he's a world-class player. He's really world-class. What he can do with the ball, like little to no players can actually do. And I think Klopp knows that, and he's going to use him when he is needed and if it. And the rest of the games, probably 70% of the games, Szoboszlai is going to get, not are, sorry. That's my feeling. But it's going to be so super, super interesting. And I actually feel like, as we talked about this, and as Jeremy said, like, none of them actually is like the Fabinho when he was at his prime in a way. And the thing is that maybe Fabinho now staying, he's also in the conclusion of actually playing. If he is just getting better as he was last season, then he could actually be a valid point in starting. So it's going to be interesting who's going to start for Liverpool, in my opinion.
A new way for Klopp, for sure. I think it's
a new way.
Going to be we're going to see a new team.
Yeah, but way more important. What do you guys? Because Liverpool, I think, is superly stacked, and I think they were so underperforming last year. So I think we're gonna see a complete renaissance of the Liverpool squad. But let's talk about a team that actually for loads of people overperformed last season. But I don't actually think they overperformed that much. And let's talk about Arsenal FC. We never talked about Arsenal FC on the pod, basically, or in the video. What do we guys think about Arsenal? Do we think they could actually replicate what they did? And what do we think about the signings? Me personally, I love Mikel Arteta. I think he's awesome guy. I think he's a genius. And just because of Arteta and of Ødegaard and Saka, Martinelli, I think they could be still in the game for winning it. I don't understand 120 million for Declan Rice. I have a joke. I have a joke going on with some German friends of mine that if you would have called Dieter Reis, which is the German translation of Declan Rice, basically Dieter Reis, he would have basically cost 25 million and nothing more. But yeah, that's another thing. Kai Havertz also going to Arsenal. Maybe Arteta is gonna make something out of him. I think he's a good player. I don't hate him, and him maybe as a false nine as well, because Gabriel Jesus as well was injured last year most of the time. And yeah, I think Jurrien Timber they got, that's quite good depth
Yeah.
for England. I don't think he will start. Gabriel and Saliba are better than Jurrien Timber, no doubt about that. But just for depth about midweeks and cups, I think that's pretty good. I actually think Arsenal is a very good team yet. And now that Arteta has his third season, I think this could actually, maybe the Gunners are actually gonna have a shot at winning it again, even if last year, for most people, they overperformed. I think this year they could actually do it again. For me, it's either Arsenal, Liverpool, or City again, and United, of course. But I can't really judge United because I don't really understand Eric Ten Hag. Not that he's a bad gaffer, but I don't understand his style of playing as much as I do the others.
I think I like Arsenal. To back to the first thing you were asking, and I don't think they've overperformed last year. I think they had a team built the way Arteta wanted to build, and we talk every single time we talk about football, right? We talk about giving coaches the time to build something and to live and die by their ideas, and I think that's what they've done. Arsenal with Arteta, would they have done that if he wasn't the disciple of Pep Guardiola? Maybe not, but they did it, and good for them, because even though eventually they didn't get the title, they were there or thereabout for most of it. I also think that the squad has unbelievable depth.
Yeah.
We saw of course Saka and Odegaard shining, but now you add Rice. There's Emil Smith Rowe, who's finally out of his injury and who's a bit of an X factor whenever he comes in. There's Thomas Partey, who if we forget about what happened off the field, or what allegedly happened on the field, he's always sort of like offering what's the word I'm looking for? Delivering when you ask him to, and same with Zinchenko, excuse me. So I think like they have so much talent everywhere. I mean, defensively, I was surprised that they got Jurrien Timber, because you would think that between Gabriel Magalhaes and Saliba, they didn't really need somebody of the level of Jurrien Timber, even though this is a it's a big step up for him to be able to perform as well in EPL as he's done with Ajax. But yeah, there's not a spot in that team, I think, where the talent isn't big enough, but also there's not a spot in that team where the talent is bigger than the collective, and that's exactly what Arteta sort of built, and finding players who are happy to play with each other. So yeah, I'm wondering where a guy like Folarin Balogun eventually sort of lives, because I don't think he stays. I was wondering about that kid who was who was on loan in Championship last year, or Trusty. Apparently, he would be going to Sheffield this season, so another loan for him. So at least even the young player that they have, they're moving them away. But I don't see them having overperformed last year. I just thought it was the result of work well done, and so this season I don't see why we wouldn't see them as high, especially if players like Gabriel Jesus stop being injured and Smith Rowe is available for the whole season, and then all those players that are good only 5-6 games a a season, it looks like Arsenal is good at making them play at the right time, at the right spot, like what's his name, like Nketiah and boys like this. So, they're all like under 28, 27 years old. So I don't see why they would stop being as good this season.
But do we think there's going to be the starting 11, just that for Xhaka, basically Declan Rice is going to play? Or do we think there's going to still be another?
I think it'll be Declan Rice over Partey, and I think Havertz will play over Xhaka. I think that'll be the big difference. I think that's the big thing you get with Havertz coming into this midfield and with Rice is both of them are infinitely more mobile than Xhaka and Partey. So very, very convincing performances. Very good AA from Jorginho, from Xhaka, from Partey when we've been looking through these.
Jorginho as well. Holy moly!
Yeah, Jorginho. I was wondering if he was going.
But I think Declan Rice. I think he's perfect for the money. By the way, I think Declan Rice is going to be a monster in this. I think he's the closest thing to Patrick Vieira they've had since Patrick Vieira. Like, he's very underrated. I think at carrying the ball 10 yards, how strong he is, how defensively capable he is as well. Formerly a centre back in his youth as well. I think Rice is hugely transformative. And when you put Fabio Vieira, obviously, is on this match. Who was this against Southampton in a 3-3 draw? But I think when you put somebody as mobile as Havertz in this Xhaka role, because he's got just as good an eye for a pass as Xhaka for my money, maybe not quite the same range, but you give the mobility of a Havertz in here along that Odegaard side as well. I think that midfield, we were just talking about Liverpool and how formidable their midfield might become this year, but I think Arsenal have to be the second favourites behind City this year off the back of Havertz and Rice upgrading these midfield spots here, because the rest of the team looks pretty tight, doesn't it? And even Ben White or Jurriën Timber, that's a great 50-50 fight all season for whoever's best in form from, if you're making Arteta's point of view, maybe not too good for Sorare, but and then the whole back four, you get two guys to a position fighting for it. And then the forward line's pretty tidy, like you've mentioned there as well, Jeremy. So I think this upgrade in midfield is worth every penny they've spent, because I think you just activate so much of the good stuff in attack and you get a lot out of your defence for this midfield now as well.
They have a lot of depth. I just saw it in your changes of formation. That's crazy. Crazy team they have, like, seriously.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
So I think second favourites behind City is a very rightful place for them. And it's going to be that initial, you know what it's like when the group stage gets drawn, and this will be the final time we have a group stage in this format, but the first 2 games, Arsenal will probably have them against lower seeds, give or take. And if those are at home and quite favourable and they don't really need to worry too much, if they can just go hell for leather at the league for the first 15 matches or so, that's kind of what happened to them last year when they didn't have that Champions League pressure over them. They were, messing around with Europa League and rotating team very heavily. So obviously Champions League group stages, you can't quite do that to the same extent, of course. The team's got better, more depth is there, but I think that's going to be the key to them, is that first 15 games, they need to be really close to perfect to really give themselves the platform to go the full season and be able to dodge and bob and weave injuries and everything else that will crop up. But I think they're about to do it.
Yeah. How's Man United looking, by the way? Now that we're doing all the big ones.
Let's have a look at Man United. So I think the problem with Man United is, I don't know if it is a problem anymore. Also, Onana's came in.
They bought
defense
Højlund.
is kind of
this week.
Who?
They bought the Højlund, the striker from Atalanta, for 85 million. They bought him.
Højlund up front. Yeah, so I think Højlund is a good addition into the front line here, because it doesn't feel like he likes Sancho, and it feels like he's promised Garnacho the world. So I don't know how you get Rashford into the team, if you're going to be playing Garnacho, and then if you bring in Højlund, so maybe Rashford's going to
start for now, to be honest, though.
It feels like he's been promised a lot, but it feels like he's been promised a lot. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, I feel like he's been. Honestly, I don't know what it is or what I've heard, but something in my head's telling me that he's been promised a good bit this year. But I think Højlund will be very good. He's kind of the player that they've missed up front for a number of years. Really, even it's kind of what they thought they were getting with Zlatan and with Cavani and some other like failed, and even Lukaku, I suppose, to a lesser extent, is an actual striker that can be like your talisman. You know, every team we've seen across Europe that does win a title, even look back to AC Milan when they won the Scudetto. You know, big Giroud up there was just putting balls away, or even Rafael, if you wanted to think about him as being a bit of the talisman in the team. Napoli last year, Osimhen, Kvaratskhelia. You need these kind of roles. You need these kind of characters in your story to win in the league and going on to glory. And Man United haven't had a striker that could really deliver that on the pitch. The guy that's there in the clutch moment, that will lay the ball on so somebody else can tap it in, doesn't go for glory himself, or if he does go for glory, he can really whip it in. You know, you're one player that Højlund, and I've watched Højlund play a little bit of Serie A. I watched a lot of his clips recently because of all the links to Man United. And in a way, and again, this is a lot of clip bias coming into this, he's got like a bit of Berbatov vibes, you know, like he does. He's got a really good eye for a pass. He's got a good eye he likes getting into a channel, getting to the byline, and he's got a good outside of the foot kind of flick in for somebody else to get a tap in. You know, he's got a good bit of that about him, you know. So I think he's going to be really impressive. But the problem with these transfers, as we've seen in the Premier League, is it is the biggest step up anyone's going to make in their career, is going from any league to the Prem, never mind being the starting striker for Man United. And this guy, I seen a great post from Alex, who owns this guy's Super Rare, and he bought him as part of a Sturm Graz stack. And let it not be forgotten, he was playing for Sturm Graz like 5 minutes ago. You know what I mean? So he's not as if he's been in Serie A and he's been like Ciro Immobile for 5 years or something, you know? So there's a big step to happen for him, but I think he's got a bit of it.
And he was in a team that was playing like for him, for his style, and that was really adapted to the way he likes to play. So it's going to be different, I think, where he goes. And yeah, Man United is such a it's such a double-edged sword. Like you can be good and you're on a pedestal, but it only takes 1 or 2 games where you're not good. It looks like your confidence never goes back up in this club. Like we've seen so many players that are supposedly good and just didn't end up making it when they went to United. I mean, I've watched who were they playing this morning? I was watching a little bit of their friendly game after my mate told me you should watch how Andre Onana treats all his defense. I'm sure you guys have seen the clip today. So I've watched a little bit of it. And what you were saying, Fedo, I think I kind of agree. It's hard to understand what Ten Hag's actually trying to do.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, if you have all those players in your team, it doesn't matter if I don't understand what you're trying to do. They're all pretty strong. And Anthony hopefully is adapting well now. Rashford is staying and he's still there. And we talked about Garnacho. There's Martial also, when he can actually play, who can always bring a little bit of something. So I think United, if they play the way they're supposed to play, I think they're supposed to be there. I'm having a bit of an issue with their defense, because even if you've added Onana, Lisandro Martinez is okay, and it's going to be a second year, so maybe it's going to be better. But even next to him, I don't even want to hear about Maguire and Frenchie is getting a little bit old. So yeah, this is where I think their issue is for sure defensively. If you look at it,
it's crazy because. It's so crazy because Rafael Varane was the best defender I've ever seen when he played for Real Madrid, and he's so bad at Man United. I don't understand it. It really, this is crazy how important sometimes clubs are for a certain player. It's crazy. Maybe it was because he had Sergio Ramos behind him, and he is maybe a little bit like Chiellini and Bonucci, where Chiellini was so good that Bonucci looked good, but Bonucci is shit. And maybe that was the same thing with Rafael Varane and Ramos, but yeah, I don't know.
I think you could see when he was at Real Madrid, when Ramos wasn't here and Varane was supposed to take over, and he had like either a Militao or a Nacho or whatever next to him. He definitely wasn't the leader, but also he gave an interview with Griezmann. That was before we won the World Cup, so I think 2017 or whatever, where they were talking about players who, instead of peaking at 29, peak at 25, 26, and then get tired at 30. And that's because they started at that high level when they were 17. Mind you, Griezmann found a second and a third and a fourth youth. But I think if I now in hindsight, it looks like Varane was telling everybody, as soon as I hit 29, boys, I'm gone. Because since he won that World Cup, it just kind of all gone downhill for him, and he brings the experience maybe a little bit at United, but it's too much for him.
Won everything.
Yeah, he won everything, right? Well, you know what? And why would he work hard anymore?
Yeah, he won everything.
It's so easily forgotten that he is only 30, you know, and he has been playing since he was like 17, 18. Real Madrid scooped him up quickly out of Lille, or I can't remember who it was, but Lons, and it began with an L.
Yeah,
but yeah, so it is easily forgotten that he is 30, and like, yeah, I don't think he's not the Ramos kind of guy, but I do think that, yeah, the defense is definitely the weakness, but I don't think Varane can carry Maguire, but I think Varane can play next to Martinez, and I think with kind of what's going on in Man United's midfield, it's still a little bit of a work in progress, and like I say, up front, still a lot of question marks. You know, I think Rashford. You know, I want to come back to the kind of Rashford thing, because that just kind of fell out my mouth in the kind of one thought of the whole Garnacho thing. But I think Rashford will start in the best 11. He'll start most of the games. Don't get me wrong, but I do think, like, as far as Ten Hag is concerned, like, if he doesn't mix with Højlund and he can't be effective off that left wing, he will play Garnacho and he will get him to do it. You know, because I think he does rate him highly. That's kind of what I was saying. And I think if we're going to spend this money on Højlund, I think Højlund is going to be nailed on.
He's got Mount for that return, I reckon, as well, to be able to get somebody who's just going to pass the ball to Højlund.
Yeah,
well, very similar to what I was saying about Arsenal. I think, see, what you're going to see from Man United with Bruno and Mount is that kind of double energy, creative midfield option to roam around behind the front three, pick up pockets, transition from the defence to attack quickly, and get the ball moving. Very similar to what Havertz will do for Arsenal. You'll see Mount do for Man United. I think there'll probably be quite similar things we see happening there. But thinking about young French players moving over to big clubs at a young age, Chelsea have been doing a little bit of that. They have scooped up Axel Disasi from under the noses of Man United to further get, you know, how many young French defenders do Chelsea really need at this point is what we've got to be asking ourselves. And they've also been out and got the guy. Yeah, that's it. The boy, Leslie Ugochukwu, Wozu? I can't say his name, sorry. From Oh, was it? Oh, good. I got most from Rennes as well. I beg your pardon. So Chelsea have been quite active over the last couple of days. Jeremy, what do you fancy about both these guys moving to Chelsea?
It's interesting, right, that we talk about Arsenal and Manchester United, and those players who are going to make the difference for them are all former Chelsea players, because Chelsea is just a washing machine of recruits coming in and coming out. And since Boehly took over, it's even more that. Yeah, in France, they call them Les Bleus now instead of calling them Les Blues, because there's so many French players who joined, and Kunku, of course, has joined as well over the summer, and it was agreed a while back. To be honest, those last two recruits, I'm skeptical. Ugochukwu was barely a starter at Rennes, so it's definitely going to Chelsea to probably be, you know, loaned somewhere and hopefully free in Championship, because it probably do him a world of good to learn how to play in Championship, so he can have a better understanding of Ligue 1. And then Axel Disasi, I mean, you got Badashil, and he played a little bit before he got injured, and now you're getting Disasi. There's a reason why Monaco didn't win the league with Badiashile and Disasi. So why do you put them back together now in the Chelsea defense? Yeah. They're good defender. They're strong. They don't mind playing with ball, but sometimes we say about players that they have one mistake on them. Disasi has two or three. So it's surprising to me that there was so much noise around him. Badiashile, there was a little bit of that. He's a left-footed, tall, young defender who can make it. And Disasi 2 years ago was that, but he's not that young anymore. I mean, he's not old, but he's not that young anymore. And he's shown now that he is not going to the next level, at least in Ligue 1. So to be honest, I was surprised that Chelsea would scoop him, but they must have a plan somewhere. How many defenders do you need, though? Like you had Colwill, who just joined last year. Who just made his breakout in EPL last year. You have Thiago Silva, who of course maybe is in the end, but he's still there. and Badiashile and Cucurella and Fofana when he comes back from injury, if he ever comes back, and Chalobah, who supposedly was going to get a shot in his team. I'm not even talking about Malo Gusto. I don't know why they got Malo Gusto, but they got him anyway. So it feels a little bit the same. You know what we were just saying before about Mount and Harvets when they're going to go somewhere else and make them better. It feels like there's 12 players in that Chelsea squad waiting to be scooped by somebody who's actually going to give them some game time, so they can exist and express themselves. And we talked about Ugo Choku. Ugo Choku is a midfielder. Look at that midfield.
They've got nobody in midfield, man. It's Enzo and then Conor Gallagher. That's it.
I mean, there's Mudryk and yes.
Oh, but midfield, but like midfield,
yes,
actually center of the pitch.
They do want to buy Moises Caicedo as well for 100 million.
Caicedo is coming. I was going to say, I thought there was somebody coming in. Ugo Choku is not the guy that you want to have as your starter.
No, you don't.
Man,
I don't think he's that special, to be honest. It's just go back to defender. It's crazy how like the best defender that Chelsea still has is Thiago Silva, and it's still gonna be Thiago Silva because he's just another level. And after that, it's probably Levi Colwill. The only guy who could be to say who is better, but he's always injured, is Wesley Fofana. But he's always injured. I don't even count him anymore as a part of the squad. And but yeah, and you buy DSC and you buy him. I don't understand why he's gonna buy, especially. DSC is very bad player, like for real, and he's like Chalobah. Probably Chalobah is better than Alex DSC. And do you want to sell Chalobah to buy Alex? I don't understand. Yeah, Malang Sarr.
It's not like there was no choice as well. Like even if you go to France, I see that Napoli is insisting for him now. But you have Kevin Danso, who's so good with Lens, Medina, who's so good with Lens as well. That were better than Disasi all season. I mean, even Mbemba at Marseille, who's half a mercenary and who would go anywhere if you pay him the right amount of money, is better than a guy like Disasi. So I don't know if there's some friendship between.
Isn't Mbemba the guy with the age problem? That's why Porto catched him away.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm happy with a guy with an age problem like this. Look at his SO5, but also it'll tell you how good he was with Marseille. He was the best player in Marseille last year. So I don't care how old he is. If you're the best, you're the best. But yeah, that's him.
That's true.
So yeah, it's surprising because it feels like they're going to ruin those Frenchies at Chelsea, and then what's the exit door? Maybe a loan to the feeder club.
Because this guy is listed as a substitute, like for Rennes. So
he doesn't start. He doesn't start at Rennes.
I know. It's just crazy. What are they doing in midfield, man? It just feels like they're absolutely they've totally forgotten about it with all this crazy signings they've been doing.
But I don't think, to be honest, on a positive note for Chelsea, I think Nicholas Jackson is a great signing. Sorry for the camera. Nicholas Jackson and Christopher Nkunku are great signings. I think both of them are very good players. And I think Mauricio Pochettino is not the wrong coach for the Chelsea project they are right now. This, on the hand side, I think this could be seen as positive for Chelsea. I don't think Chelsea's going to be nowhere near the title race this year, like nowhere.
Yeah.
And they should try to qualify for the Champions League. I think that's the only goal they should have this season, basically.
Forward line definitely looks handy, doesn't it? If we put Mudryk into the picture as well, obviously he's listed here as a midfielder. Nico Jackson and Nkunku seem to be hitting the ground running in a big way. But it's just all got to fall down in midfield. And Poch, whatever, right? But I don't think he's, you cannot start this season with the midfield the way it's sitting now. Why? See, Disasi, for me, Disasi is just like Calvin Bassey in the sense that he is off the charts for physical metrics. We see a lot of Red Bull projects, kids come through and they're just physical specimens. They're super tall, super strong, super fast, durability, and they're still really young. So there's a lot of growth potential for them to happen with, and that can be the appeal for a lot of these clubs to pick these guys up. Is just that, like, oh, they're so big, strong, and fast that they'll be able to deal with balls over the top like this and like that and whatever. But I don't think this Chelsea defence can really do with many more of those kind of paper, moneyball kind of signings when your midfield is derelict. It is like, it's just the Enzo show. It's Enzo and then Conor Gallagher, who people are trying to buy. Like, I hear people getting linked to Conor Gallagher. So I don't think it's like set in stone he's going to be there. I know this Chukwuemeka guy is highly rated. God knows where he actually plays. But I think Pochettino, like, whatever like slim reputation he's got kind of remaining at this point, like, it is very contingent, I think, on moves.
But Quinny, to be honest, he could play Nkunku on the number 10, Enzo Fernandez and Moise Caicedo. That wouldn't be the worst midfield, to be honest.
But they've not signed Moises Caicedo yet, and I don't think that's unlikely. I don't think it's like, oh, they're definitely going to get him. It's just like,
I understand what you mean, but even Nkunku and Enzo Fernandez and Conor Gallagher would not be the worst midfield, to be honest.
But what if one of them gets injured? Then they're playing
that's the problem.
Lewis Hall or Charles Webster or Harry Vale or Dion Rankin or Omar Giroud Hutchinson. Maybe one of the guys will come in. Absolutely nobody's with great respect to them, you know. That is Chelsea, but there's been some little rumours and some whispers and whatever as well that Chelsea have also got this kind of, under Boehly anyway, they're trying to CFG-ify themselves a bit more than what Abramovich did previously. So they've got this little link, this little bridge they've built up with Strasbourg. The link I kind of heard earlier this week when I was travelling around was that maybe Chelsea will sign Zakarian from Dynamo Moscow and slide them into League One to play with Patrick Vieira and Strasbourg this year. Do you think there's any potential that happens? And if so, why wouldn't Chelsea just keep Zakarian?
Yeah, keep him to start with.
I don't know, because they have enough number 10s in a way. They have enough number 10s at Chelsea. They don't have central midfielders. I agree with Quinny, but they have enough number 10. Because in all hindsights, if everything goes bad, you could actually even play Hakim Ziyech on the 10, for example. And even if everybody's injured, you could even play, like, it won't be good, but you could even play Sterling on the 10. But I think 10 is not the problem they have. I think central midfield it is. So he wouldn't play that much. And in that sense, I think if he goes to Chelsea, I think he would needs to be loaned out for his good sake. But I think he doesn't want that. And that's why maybe it's not going to happen in a way. I think Lazio wanted him as well, but they also wanted to loan him out. And he didn't want that as well. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen.
He's so good.
Can you imagine signing for Chelsea and being told that you're going to be loaned out to the team who finished 15th in Liga the year before? It's also a blow. They're saying that in France, that Chelsea is trying to sign all those French players to then loan them back to Strasbourg, and so all the French players are like, "Yeah, no, I'm okay, thank you." So it's they have to be careful with that tactic. But see, we were talking about defenders. Like, even if they had gone to their feeder club, Strasbourg, Ismaël Doucouré, who's 20 years old, is one of the phenomena of last season. He can play right back or centre back, and he's a very, very strong defender, and he's shown that he can play anywhere. So he's going to get a big role this year because they've lost Djikou, Strasbourg. But yeah, it was interesting to hear the president of Strasbourg gave quite a few interviews since Chelsea bought the club. Yeah, maybe we should make that obvious in case people who are listening aren't aware. But Bluco, who owns Chelsea, bought Strasbourg now. But they've kept everybody who was there. And Strasbourg in France is kind of like, I don't know, maybe it's a weird comparison, but it's kind of like an Athletic Bilbao in Spain, in the sense of it's a lot of history. It's a club that is known to be very, very anchored in their region, where winning at Strasbourg is half a miracle. They were known to be the only team that Paris couldn't beat from like 2017 to 2020 or something like that. So they're a club that has a lot of history. And in 2011, they had no money and were in regional leagues. And then they went up with that president, Marc Keller, and they went all the way to Ligue 1 now, and he's still the president. until he sold out. But he said that he was going to remain the president, and that the way Todd Boehly wanted to run the club was to keep people who know what they are doing at Strasbourg, and not to wait until August 31st and send all the Chelsea player that they don't want, just like Man City did with Troyes, for example. So it'll be interesting to see how it works. At the end of the day, what we've seen already is that Strasbourg has never spent as much money on a transfer window. They got Abakar Silla, who came from Club Brugge, and then they got Emega as well, who arrived from Austria. I can't remember where from anymore, but down in Sturm Graz, yes. And then they got a little unsung hero, Jesse Demingue, who if Strasbourg does well, I bet you that Jesse Demingue is going to have some very good score, because he's a number 10 who they call the set pieces, and he came on a free from Caen in second division. So they've recruited those people, and they've kept their most important player, Habib Diallo, up front, who's a striker who scores 18 to 21 goals a season, but that for some reason all the biggest team just overlook, and even his cost, to be honest, on Sorare is quite surprising. But he's a player who will score the same amount of goal, who has something that nobody else has in that attack, which is the mobility, the ability to be an anchor player, but also to come down and get the ball. And he's lethal in front of goals, and you can forget him for half a game, and then he's going to end up scoring anyway. So I think there's a lot of good player. It doesn't feel yet that they are the feeder club, but also without being the feeder club, they wouldn't have Emega, and they wouldn't have what's his name, Silla, who came from Club Brugge. If anybody is checking, which player on that squad could eventually have a future somewhere else, I think Doucouré is one, and then there's a kid that has been compared many a times to Leo Messi. His name is Moïse Sahi. He plays forward. He's 21 years old, and just because of the way he plays, he's obviously watched a lot of Messi, so he runs the same way Messi runs, and he dribbles the same way Messi dribbles, but he didn't convince. Last year he did okay in Ligue 2 for a bit, but he didn't really convince. But they were trying really hard not to lose him in the off season, so we might see him playing a little bit, because technically he's gifted. He just sometimes forget the ball, so he's no Messi yet, but he runs the same way. It's going to be an interesting development, seeing Strasbourg, how they are linked to Chelsea, and can they do whatever they want, or are they going to have to listen to Chelsea? We have the two examples: Toulouse, who's owned by the same as Milan AC, and Troyes, who's owned by Manchester City, and they didn't work the same way. So in France, we're very curious about what's going to happen with Strasbourg.
Yeah, I really like the look of that squad as well. I'm not a big, as time goes on, I'm beginning to lose faith in Patrick Vieira as a manager. And I think this surely has to be last chance saloon, for the big man. Come on, Pat, get it together, son. And I think that team, probably the only players I would just name that you've not touched on there, Jeremy, that are worth a mention for anyone looking at Strasbourg, is Jean-Rickner Bellegarde, very, very good SO5 scorer. And Ibrahima Sissoko didn't really feature too much last year, but previously was quite a good scorer. I think before an injury, change of manager or something. I can't remember all the ins and outs of it. But if he came under some good form under Big Pat, I could see it happening. And he's got some form for hitting the 80s.
Bellegarde is quite heavily linked with Nice right now, who apparently want to bring him regardless if they lose Kefren Thuram or not. But yeah, Jean-Rickner Bellegarde has been their guy, and for Strasbourg to lose Thomasson last year and Bellegarde this year, it would be a bit of a blow. But the kid on their roster who's just under Bellegarde, Habib Diarra, he's another young player. I think he's of the Lyon Academy, if I'm not mistaken, who's very promising, and who we are expecting to be one of the best young talent in the league in the years to come. So he's somebody that we're waiting to see how far he can go, but he's a very good young player.
For sure, man. Centre mid, attacking mid, striker, right mid, left defensive mid, left mid. Very versatile. Centre defensive mid I've seen down there as well. And yeah, back end of the season, form starting to pick up. Only 19 years of age, under 23 eligible till 2028. Yeah, he definitely looks like a player. I like the look of that as well. And for a centre defensive midfielder that could go box to box, again, Big Vieira should have some good fun with these kids. Habib Diallo, like somebody who's been knocking around for a while, takes penalties and stuff like that. And yeah, I think it's one of these guys, Jeremy. Like, I remember when me and you were doing the show last year. I forget if Fedo was on the episode or not, but we were talking about a Jork, and we were talking about somebody else like a Jork. And there's just these guys that were just stat monsters, like Laborde. That's who it was. Yeah, they were winning all their aerial duels. They were scoring goals for fun, whatever. But they were just never going to go to Real Madrid or AC Milan or Man United. No, they're never going to sign or look at these players just because of some unknown reason, maybe beyond their age, maybe it's split profile or something. But Diallo definitely feels like he slips into that little category as well. It's like a proven guy at the level, but you've not really got that much danger that maybe he gets taken up the food chain, but there's maybe a bit of danger actually. Maybe he gets taken out the food chain altogether. The way things have been going this transfer window.
I think he's the guy that every year we're wondering why he doesn't go anywhere. He was at Metz and then he went to Strasbourg, which are two clubs that are enemy. But now he's doing okay at Strasbourg, and Metz is coming back in Liga, and they have Youssef Maziz and George Mikotadze, who are two players that are worth checking on Sorare. They did very good when they were at Serie A in Belgium a year and a half ago, and last year Mikotadze was the guy in Ligue 2, and this season they're saying that he's definitely leaving Metz. We don't know where he's going, but he's the kind of forward that has easily 20 goals, 10 assists in his legs season in, season out. So it's he's the friend of Kvaratskhelia in the Georgian national team, and he's look at his scores. He's all right. He was in Ligue 2, of course, and he brought them up. But before that, he was at Serie A, and he had some pretty good scores as well.
Yeah, under 23 to 2025 as well. He's a great shout. Feda, is there anything that's getting you excited in terms of like transfers and all that kind of stuff across the window? When I was thinking about coming into the show today, I thought the prospect of Renato Sanchez going to Roma, playing under Jose Mourinho, was a good bit of something to look ahead to next year. Is that caught your eye, or is there anything else going on with you on that sense, or what? Or just to give you
don't worry. I was just listening super carefully to what Jeremy said about French League. I always love when he talks about the French League, to be honest. So much passion. And so Renato Sanchez to Roma is going to be great. I think Renato's an absolutely amazing footballer. He just needs to be loved in a way, and somebody needs to give him the chance. There seems to be a kind of a bit wee situation at Roma, because apparently Thiago Pinto and Jose Mourinho hate each other like I don't know what, and apparently there's gonna a break. Somebody of them is gonna go. Either Thiago Pinto or Jose Mourinho is gonna leave the club in the next week or so. So that's gonna be huge. If they lose Jose Mourinho, everything's gone to shite anyways. So you can forget the season if they lose Jose Mourinho. Yeah. They had quite good, strong signings, to be honest. They signed even Ndicka, who's a decent centre back who played at Frankfurt. They signed Houssem Aouar, who was always kind of a wonder kid at Lyon and never made the real big next step, but he was seen as a wonder kid that could have been gone to Real Madrid one day. He didn't do that, but he's still a decent player. And
they got him for free as well.
For free, and he's just always he was injured long time. That's the thing. But he's a decent player. And the thing about why they hate each other so much, Thiago Pinto and Jose Mourinho, is basically Jose Mourinho is demanding since months. He wants a new striker. He needs a new striker if he wants to be competitive, because Tammy Abraham is out probably for most of the season. He ruptured his cruciate I think in the last game of the season, something like that. And so Tammy Abraham is out. That's why you only have one nominal striker, which being Andrea Bellotti, which is crazy. For example, I think in the last test, in the last friendly game, in the preparation game, he basically changed 10 out of his 11 players. Only Andrea Bellotti he didn't change to show the board holy shit, I need another striker, basically. And okay, it's Jose Mourinho. You have to live with Jose Mourinho. That's just who he is. And basically, that's why they hate each other, especially because Jose Mourinho apparently wants Morata, and Thiago Pinto wants Scamacca, and but they need a striker. They need a second striker, maybe even as a first striker, because as much as I like Belotti, I don't think he's good enough for being the first striker for AS Roma. I think Gianluca Scamacca would be the perfect signing. Even Alvaro Morata, who is not a bad player, he's very underrated when he does actually play them, and is not hated. The problem is he's hated everywhere he goes, and but he's decent. If he has a decent coach, he's actually a decent player. But other than that, I think Roma has great potential. They have good team leadership. They are a Jose Mourinho team. They have a they have a strong band, and they have a very vocal core with Pellegrini, Mancini, Cristante, and I think Spinazzola, he's gonna be back as well for the whole season now. It's a great team. Now have even more depth.
Bove guy's been good as well, hasn't he?
Eduardo Bove is a very good player, a very good talent. You have Paulo Dybala. If he plays, he's from another world, and if he plays, and I'm not too worried about Roma if they don't lose Jose Mourinho. If they lose Jose Mourinho, it's another topic.
Yeah, for sure.
Other than that, in Italy, Inter needs a goalie. They still don't have a goalie.
they talk about Sommer at some point.
They want Sommer, basically. They do want Sommer. And apparently, but he's still playing for Bayern. He's also still starting all the friendlies for Bayern, which is very strange in a way. He is in Japan. So they need a goalie. Inter need a goalie, and they want another striker because they lost Lukaku, obviously. They want the Chang really likes Balogun, Florian Balogun. They really want Florian Balogun at Inter Milan. And they got Fratesi, which is great. They bought the kid from Udine. Now I think Izor Lazarevic. I think what's his name, midfielder from Udine. He's actually a very good player, and he's not in the roster yet. Di Marco, crazy. What the development he had last season, absolutely crazy. Fratesi they bought. Hakan Fratesi, Barella, not the worst midfield in life, to be honest. And they want a striker.
They did okay from them. They got Thuram.
They got Thuram, but they see him more like as a winger, more type of winger. They don't see him as a number 9 as Lukaku. So they did want to have Lukaku back on definite loan with buyout. But then Lukaku did all this mess with wanting to go to Juve and whatever, and now they don't want to have him back at Inter, rightfully so. And other than that, then Italy, it's going to be very interesting who Napoli sign as a center back. They need a center back now that Kim Min-jae is gone to Bayern Munich as well. They need a center back. They apparently are gonna keep Osimhen, and Arsenal wants Kvaratskhelia, but I don't think they're gonna buy him. He's too expensive, and Napoli is a very hard bargaining power. They're very, very hard contractor in a way. The midfield looks okay. I think Zielinski basically extended the contract, which is great for them. They needed him. Lozano is on an out. I think De Laurentiis basically said either you sign a contract extension, which with lower salary, or you're basically gonna go out this summer. So Lozano is gone, which is kind of sad because he's actually a good player, and I think he was very fit. He fitted very good to the Napoli system, and but it's anyways. Napoli is very, very interesting to see with Rudi Garcia as a coach. I'm not the biggest fan of Rudi Garcia, and I don't think they're gonna. They're certainly not in the top favorites for the Serie A this season, for sure not. I think Milan, Juve, and Inter are by far better than Napoli this year, in my honest opinion. and they desperately need a centre back because apparently they want Kevin Danso, or
Yeah, they're saying that they're very close to getting Danso supposedly. Like if you
yeah,
and if you don't know Danso, 2 years in a row now he's in like the team of the season in Liga for best defender, and he came from
yeah,
like
he's good.
second division in Austria before he joined Lens. He's a
Yeah.
very very solid centre back, and for a team who did so well with Kim Min-jae, who not that he was coming out of nowhere, but who was good at integrating a player who was less known. I think it's a market that could work for Denso. But yeah, I think the issue, regardless, for Napoli is Rudy Garcia more than anything else.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah, so I'm excited for that. I'm very excited for Serie A to kick off. I'm really excited to see Serie A again, and to be honest, I'm the most excited for. It might be patriotismic, but I'm very excited to kick off Bundesliga and Serie A. To be honest.
Yeah, well, I think Serie A is quite. It was quite open last year. Obviously, that's how Napoli kind of won it. Lazio finished second, but we are used to having like Juve winning like 8-9 titles in a row. And this year, like I know it's kind of happened, like I already kind of mentioned just a second ago, like over the last 2 or 3 seasons. But this year really does feel like Serie A is a total straight fight between like 6 teams. Really, like could be MD. Really, I know it.
Yeah.
I don't think Napoli will do it under Rudy Garcia. I totally get you there. I think that's a huge downgrade. I think losing Min-jae is huge as well. Even if you replace him, I think he's just a huge part of it. But I think it's a huge downgrade from where they were last year. And I've not really seen them do much strengthening outside of that. But so, I think Serie A will be really exciting to watch this year from a kind of neutral point of view. And I think we could get another surprise kind of winner on the Scudetto this year. Maybe it could be Jose with Roma. It could even be somebody who we've not even mentioned. But the Bundesliga is definitely one that we're kind of forever waiting for the next non-Bayern winner to come. Borussia Dortmund absolutely banana peeled it last year in a big way, really fell down. And, they've brought in Sabitzer. They're kind of getting themselves kind of up and rolling again. In between them and Bayern Munich, like I've not really seen any incomings where I've thought, oh yeah, that's going to be a big difference maker to them. Like I've seen Bayern bring in guys like, like Leimer and a few other stuff that they've had kind of
Kim Min-jae.
Kim Min-jae is great, right? But they're losing out on Lucas Hernandez, and they're shifting on Pavard. So like, it doesn't really change their team too much. I know he's better than these guys, but like it's not like they've got a new Lewandowski or something like that coming into the team, or a new Musiala level player in the midfield.
Apparently they are gonna get Kane. It seems like to be on the final stretch. I think the CEO of Bayern and the moment we're speaking at are talking to Levy in London, and they're trying to make this happen. I think they're short of like 10 million of the valuation they want for Kane, which I think they're gonna somehow get close to, which is anyways absolutely phenomenal that you can that Tottenham is asking 110 million euros for a player who next summer is basically a free agent and who's not the youngest. So, which is absolutely crazy. This is going to be the deal of the century for Tottenham if they actually do it, because it's so much money for a player who next season would be for free, basically. And so if they get Kane, it's gonna be a whole lot of a squad, to be honest. I think Kane is exactly what they needed. They needed a number 9. Bayern needs a number 9. That's all. All the time when Bayern Munich was successful, they had a number 9 that was working always.
And a better coach.
Kim Min-jae and the coach. Yeah, Kim Min-jae is gonna start with De Ligt. To 100% start. De Ligt is gonna be the new defense boss in a way. In Germany, we say Abwehrchef, and on the left, most of the games and all the important games, Fonzi's gonna do. And then if he needs a rotation, Guerrero will step in. But as we know, Guerrero's always anyways injured. There's
he is injured now,
as it seems
already.
like, as it seems like, which is very straightforward, and that's what I thought as well, because I know the quality that player has just by seeing him play at Salzburg and at Leipzig. It seems like that Konrad Laimer is actually going to start for Bayern Munich instead of Leon Goretzka. So it seems like the starting 11 of Bayern Munich is going to be in midfield. It's going to be Konrad Laimer for the moment, Joshua Kimmich, and up front as a number 10, Musiala, Jamal Musiala. And on the left wing, obviously, you have Kingsley Coman, the one and only Kingsley Coman. And then as a number 9 role, you hopefully going to have Harry Kane. And on the right wing, for the moment, it seems like Sane has the edge. But apparently he's wanted by Barcelona if they lose Dembele. I don't know where Barcelona is going to have the money to buy Leroy Sane, so I don't think that's going to happen, to be honest, because Bayern for sure is going to ask more than 60 million for him. But that's a very, very good squad. And people maybe think, oh, Konrad Laimer is not Bayern caliber or whatever, he's not good enough. Konrad Laimer is such a great player. It's unbelievable how good he is. He's such a worker, and he never gives up. And that's maybe exactly what Bayern needed. And so he can also become a little bit more offensive, which is what they wanted the whole year around. Basically, what Tuchel told the bosses, I need another 6 so that I can play Kimmich more up front, basically. And so I think Konrad Laimer, I don't know, how much is he going for in Rare right now? I think he could be huge this year as well, even as of 5. And I don't think he's too expensive.
At all. I'm a big Konrad Laimer believer as well. I think he could do pretty well. I just worry about Thomas Tuchel and and how much depth they have in midfield. Like, that he will play, and I think he'll play very well. But like, this is predicated on, like, he stays in front of Goretzka on the pecking order. He stays fit, and that Kimmich is getting a different role in the team as well. Because as soon as Kimmich wants that role back, or the team needs Kimmich to be in that role, like, he's maybe not got as much of a place. I'm a big fan of him, but I think he'll have a great season. Rare at the moment, Fed 0.1 Ethereum, so pretty tidy if you ask me.
Yeah.
15 quid for unlimited, not a problem at all. I think, particularly for common draft modes, semi-pros and stuff, 15 quid for unlimited could be juicy. Yeah.
He's going to start. It seems like he's going to start at the start of the season, and then apparently how he's going to play there and establish his role, or going to be rotated in up and forth with Goretzka. Midfield, they probably need some depth as well. I agree with you. They want to give more space to Paul Werner, but Thomas Müller can play as a 10, but he's not a 10. Thomas Müller actually could have a fifth summer of his career, to be honest, if Kane comes, because Kane is exactly the type of player Thomas Müller needs to be good. Basically, Thomas Müller is a rubbish collector. You could see him as a rubbish collector. He basically makes the goals that the others left him. And if you have a guy like Kane, who is very much like Lewandowski, I still think Lewandowski is a better player than Harry Kane. But if you have Harry Kane up front, he will have loads of opportunities to actually be the second guy with the second touch to actually then finish it, because the first one didn't come in. And that's what makes Thomas Tuchel world-class, Thomas Müller world-class, because he knows where to stand, and he knows what he has to do in the situations, and that's why he became the player he is right now, and he became world champ. He won the triple, and he won the World Cup. That's because of that.
Yeah. I'm with it.
And he's not that old, to be honest. He's only 33.
Yeah, which isn't much at all. I know.
But they have.
I was going to say, I know this guy Paul Warner's got a high reputation, and the other guy Tell is, I think his dad or his agent, maybe it's the same person, has came out and said that he's not going anywhere. Like, he is kind of there. He's not planning on going on loan or anything like that, and he thinks he's part of the first team squad. Sadio Mane looks like it's all but done. He will be Saudi bound, I think, at this point. Feels like it's there.
Yeah, he is.
I think Kane does really level Bayern up in a big way, but I just don't feel comfortable looking at this team without seeing, with knowing Thomas Tuchel is still. Let's see how he does. I'm obviously ribbing him, so I'm not a big fan of him. And Bayern, like, you know, they don't feel that set. You know, the defense feels rock solid, but like you say, until that Kane piece drops in and until you see them beat a team 5 and 6-0, I think we're all a wee bit like, let's see how Bayern do. You know, I think that's how we're all kind of feeling about it. Me personally, anyway.
I agree. They certainly need another right back as well. They're looking for
Pavard is long on the way out, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they don't want him, and he doesn't want to extend his contract, and that would be the last chance to make money of him. I thought he would have been already gone by now, but let's see what happens. But maybe Pavard is also staying, and they're not going to get any new right back. But Pavard does want to play as a centre back. He does not want to play as a right back anymore. That's why he doesn't want to play for Bayern Munich. That's my point.
Oh,
yeah. Cool.
Oh, for France, where he does the same thing. He ends up being right back instead of being centre back like he wants to.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the
They
problem.
won the World Cup playing right back. Scored the goal of the tournament from the halfway line from right back. You know,
I don't know what's good for him.
Yeah, that was the worst thing he could have done for his career. Played right back ever since. But yeah. Now, guys, I think I feel pretty caught up to speed with where we're at with a lot of stuff. And ahead of these, I think probably the next time we'll be getting together, we might even have some common modes to play about with and have a look at some defender picks and some values and what could be going on as well. So there's still lots of moving pieces across like European football at the moment. On a little side note, it could kind of take us away from everything. But the commons and the semi-pros, I'm having a great time with. I'm still winning them in MLS even through the summer and whatever. So I can't wait to get the European ones up and going again, because I think there could be a nice level of healthy competition in these in these competitions between us all, particularly the commons, so we can all get involved. You know, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks a lot for all your time today. It's been a good one.
Thanks, Quinny.
Awesome.